Insurance fraud in the UK costs more than £1.2 billion a year. That's more than £3 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding more than £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing a fraudulent claim every 5 minutes. Armed with the latest fraud-busting technology, including covert surveillance systems, sophisticated data analysis techniques, and specially trained fraud investigators, they're catching these chancers red-handed. Instead of getting away with it, more and more of these fraudsters are being caught out and claimed and shamed. Today on Claimed and Shamed, a holidaymaker is sent packing when his £12,000 claim for a cancelled trip abroad is discovered to be a flight of fancy.
This booking is not fixed.
Sorry, so this booking doesn't
Not
exist?
fixed. That's when this booking is not fixed.
This booking is not made?
Yeah, not fixed.
And a bogus claim for a car crash hits the skids when the car's smart technology reveals what really happened.
The data completely undermined the allegations that the claimant and his witness were saying, to the point that they couldn't be mistaken, they must have lied.
Here on Claimed and Shamed, we've seen it all, from scammers risking innocent people's lives in dangerous cash for crash accidents to greedy claimants making exaggerated claims to get a bigger payout. Insurance investigators have to be at the top of their game to distinguish the lies and cheats from the genuine claimants. Those featured in today's gallery of insurance rogues left a substantial trail of evidence for the fraud inspectors to get their teeth into. A pet owner who lies about the health of his pooch, drivers claiming for car crashes that didn't happen, and, in our first case, a man claiming for a cancelled family holiday that simply never existed. This claim involved a family of 4 who had to cancel a dream holiday for reasons seemingly completely beyond their control. Adam Grady of Charles Taylor was responsible for looking into it.
The claimant first contacted us in January 2022. They explained that they wouldn't be able to travel to the Maldives due to contracted COVID-19 shortly before they were scheduled to leave. The reason for cancelling was quite common due to the pandemic.
The claimant was bitterly disappointed. This was a much-needed luxury break they had saved up a lot of money for.
The booking was for 4 people. It was 2 adults and 2 children. They were due to be flying in premium economy and staying in a private bungalow on a resort. This meant that the booking was worth approximately £12,500.
Unfortunately for the claimant, he would not be getting the full amount back.
The policy that the claimant took out had a limit of £12,000 on there, so if the claim was successful, that would be the payment they would receive.
At first, everything seemed in order.
Although £12,500 sounds like a lot of money, looking at how they were travelling to the Maldives in premium economy and also the style of accommodation they were staying in, the value didn't give us any concern.
Furthermore, the claimant had all the relevant paperwork.
The claimant submitted a booking invoice for various parts of the trip, a cancellation invoice detailing whether they received any refunds, and also a positive COVID-19 test certificate.
Then Adam noticed something strange about the dates on some of the documents.
The claimant had submitted an email that was sent to them on the 2nd of January 2022. However, when referencing the booking date, which is when the claimant says they've made the booking, this was dated December 2022, which is 11 months in the future.
Unless the claimant had a time machine, there was no way the email could be about a booking that had yet to be made. And this wasn't the only time-travelling mystery contained in the emails.
We were also able to identify an issue with the travel date, as the booking email was dated the 2nd of January 2022, but referenced the flight leaving the day before on the 1st of January.
The dates simply didn't add up.
Clearly, there were issues with these dates which needed further investigation. As such, our investigations team contacted the travel agent involved.
Adam hoped that the company the claimant had booked with would be able to clear up the confusion.
I'm calling with regards of one of our customers that had to cancel his holidays. We would like to check with you if that booking actually has been made.
When we contacted the travel agent, they weren't actually able to find any record of the claimant.
This booking is not made.
Sorry, so this booking doesn't
Not
exist?
made. That means this booking is not made.
This booking is not made?
Yeah, not made.
The travel agent had no record of the booking. Things weren't looking good for this claim. And then Adam discovered another peculiar inconsistency in the evidence that had been submitted.
We noticed with the accommodation booking that there was a link to view the itinerary. When this was clicked, it actually took you to a page referencing a trip to Turkey in October 2021 and had nothing to do with the Maldives.
This luxury holiday in the sun was starting to lose its shine.
At this point, we've been told that the flight booking didn't appear to exist and that the accommodation booking may relate to a previous trip.
Adam needed to do some more digging.
As part of their initial document submission, they'd also included a bank statement to substantiate the payment they'd made for the flights and accommodation. Upon further inspection of that after the issues with the booking documents, we noticed that there was a slight font colour difference on the transactions that related to this trip. This indicated to us that the bank statement may have been changed.
The slight difference in colours on the bank statement led the eagle-eyed investigators to scrutinise it in more detail. They then spotted that the entry relating to the payment for the holiday was also in a slightly different font to the other entries. If you look very closely, you can see the tail of the letter A on the section of the statement relating to the holiday is slightly longer. This painstaking scrutiny of the documents by investigators had set alarm bells ringing.
It's quite unusual to have the font change in a bank statement. It's normally just all in the same format. This led us to check the metadata of the documents, which actually showed it had been modified shortly after it was created. This further added to our concerns that the bank statement had been changed to reflect the payment for the holiday.
It was time to confront the claimant directly.
Armed with the information we'd obtained from the travel agent, the booking document and also the bank statement, we interviewed the claimant about their claim.
I would just like to discuss the circumstances of your claim in further detail than you've been able to previously. Would you just be able to confirm the reason behind the cancellation of your trip?
In short, it was because I contracted COVID.
Is that a PCR test?
Yes.
Okay. And that was positive, is that right?
Yes.
During the interview, they were consistent in terms of why they needed to cancel the trip, citing COVID-19 as the reason. However, when we started to ask them about the issues with the booking documents, they then said that they didn't know why the travel agent had no record of them.
They've advised they don't have a record of that booking?
They don't have a record of that booking?
That's correct.
Right.
And the claimant was just as evasive when questioned about the discrepancies with the dates.
So the booking also states the trip was booked on the 2nd of December 2022, which is a date that hasn't occurred yet.
2nd of December 2022?
That's correct.
Well, unless there's been some kind of error there. I can't really think of why.
Right, okay. So I'm just trying to understand why they would tell us they don't have a record of the booking, and the booking date would be for December, the end of this year.
I've got no idea why that could happen. All I could think that may have been a mistake.
The call handler was getting nowhere, so he tried a different approach. This time, questioning the man about the mysterious trip to Turkey the year before that had appeared on his paperwork. To begin with, he was in full denial mode.
Did you travel anywhere last year at all, 2021?
No.
But he soon had to backtrack when the call handler told him about the link that had been found on the paperwork.
When that's been clicked, it comes up with a trip to Istanbul between the 25th of October of last year and the 31st of October of last year. Is there a particular reason why that would be?
The only reason I can think of that is this was booked by my wife, and maybe because she's booked previously and that's what's come up. I've got no idea.
Right, so I'm trying to understand why a new booking for a new accommodation would bring up a previous booking.
Like I was saying, because maybe it hasn't been fulfilled and it shows what's previously been fulfilled.
The claimant was starting to sound very uncomfortable. The call handler persevered with his line of questioning.
Did your wife travel to Turkey in October?
No. This was, I think, for one of her friends or relatives.
Okay, so she booked a trip for someone else?
Yes.
Okay, is there a particular reason why she would have booked that trip for somebody else?
I think she was just looking around for wherever cheaper prices.
Okay, so I understand that she was looking for prices, but is there a particular reason why she would have booked the trip on behalf of someone else?
No reason.
This claimant was floundering.
To deny having any trips booked in 2021 and to say that nobody travelled, to then backtrack on this once you've been asked a question and told what evidence we have is certainly a red flag to us. It's our concern that they were trying to hide the fact that this booking had been amended.
The net was closing in on this tricky traveller.
As the claimant had maintained their innocence throughout the telephone interview, we explained to them we would look to review their claim and update them with a decision within a period of time after the call.
But before the review had begun, the man called back.
To our surprise, they actually called him within an hour of the telephone interview concluding and said that they wanted to withdraw the claim.
But by now it was too late. Adam and his team had enough evidence to call the claimant out.
Given the value of the claim and the evidence we'd obtained throughout the investigation, we declined their claim in full and invoked the fraud condition within their policy. A follow-up to this is also placing them on the insurance fraud register. Being placed on the insurance fraud register can have severe consequences for the claimant. It will make it difficult for them to obtain insurance in the future and can also increase their premiums. Had we just accepted the withdrawal of their claim, there's no consequence for them. It's likely that they would then try and target another insurer.
Later, a shaggy tale about a poorly pooch is pulled apart by investigators.
Our main concern here is that there is significant fraud going on. They're changing the dates, they're colluding behind the scenes, they're trying to manipulate the information so that it suits their requirements.
So what does that mean then? Basically, it means that you've been dishonest with us.
When it comes to claiming for injury to yourself or damage to your car after an accident, it all comes down to proving who is at fault. That can be tricky if drivers can't agree about what actually happened. If it comes to deciding whose version of events to believe, a clever little black box which can track a car's movements can provide evidence that no one can dispute. When a collision happened at a busy junction during rush hour in Bradford, one of the drivers maintained that he knew exactly what had happened.
The claimant alleged that he was driving through a green set of traffic lights when the other driver drove from his right-hand side through a red light and collided with the side of his car. He said that she was probably on a phone, and anyway, she was a young female driver, and that meant that she probably wasn't driving very well.
Words he would later come to regret. The man claimed that he and his 2 children had been badly affected by the incident.
Around 2 days after the accident, we received a claim from the claimant and his 2 children. They were all alleging suffering with whiplash injuries to the neck and back, along with vehicle damage, recovery and storage charges and travel expenses. The total cost of the claim was roughly £30,000, and that broke down into personal injury claims for him and his 2 children, the legal costs associated with those claims, and other vehicle-related losses.
Faced with this hefty claim, the insurers appointed Benedict Harper from DWF Law to investigate the incident. His first step was to find out what the woman, who was supposed to have driven into the car, had to say.
The other driver said that she'd exited her work car park, drove onto a dual carriageway, and was side by side with the claimant driving onto a junction when he simply changed lanes and collided with her car. Essentially, both drivers were blaming each other for the accident.
Dealing with two very different accounts of the same incident is par for the course.
It's not unusual in a case like this to have two drivers alleging completely different accounts. These kinds of disputes happen all the time.
The claimant, however, had managed to track down a passerby who had seen the whole incident as he walked past.
The independent witness said in his handwritten statement that he was stood as a pedestrian on the corner of the junction and that he observed the other driver driving through a red light into a collision with the claimant's car who had simply drove through the green light. The witness was totally on the claimant's side and said that the other driver was at fault.
When the witness sent in his statement, his account was remarkably similar to the driver's.
The independent witness, along with his handwritten statement, drew a diagram of how the accident happened, and it substantiated what the claimant was saying.
The claimant's case was persuasive, especially as he had the backing of a witness. But it turned out the woman accused of causing the accident had an independent witness too, although hers wasn't human. She had a small electronic device, sometimes known as a black box, fitted to her car.
Telematics devices are really straightforward and the components are in pretty much all smartphones. It has a GPS reader, which measures your place on Earth, and an accelerometer, which measures change in motion.
Benedict and his team set about examining the information recorded by the car's black box. This would show the car's exact location and speed at which the woman was driving at the time of the accident. And the little box delivered. The telematics proved without a doubt that this claim was fraudulent. The claimant's car hadn't been hit by a careless young woman on the phone, as he'd alleged.
The data completely undermined the allegations that the claimant and his witness were saying, to the point that they couldn't be mistaken, they must have lied.
The case was listed for trial. By now, Benedict knew he held the trump card, but he had to be careful not to reveal his hand too soon.
The claimant and his witness had no idea that we had the telematics evidence. The difficulty with cases like this is quite often if you let claimants that are lying have evidence that you have, they'll quite often change their evidence to fit what you have, which causes you difficulties.
Benedict waited until the claimant's witness statement had been filed before revealing the information he'd gleaned from his client's black box. The man's lawyers were not impressed.
Once we'd served the telematics evidence, the claimant's solicitor made an application to be removed from the court record, which is essentially abandoning their client. It looked to me as though once they'd received the evidence, they realised that their client was lying.
By then, the man knew it was game over and that he could say goodbye to his £30,000.
On the morning of trial, the claimant and his witness didn't turn up. We did submit the driver's evidence along with the telematics data, but the judge didn't need to get into the nuts and bolts of the case because the claimant didn't turn up.
The judge decided that the claimant's failure to attend the trial was an obstruction of the proceedings and struck out the claim. And because he hadn't turned up, the male driver became liable for the costs of the case. He may have hoped to walk away with £30,000. Instead, he was landed with a hefty bill.
The judge ordered the claimant to pay costs of around £7,500, which we only got back after a visit from a bailiff.
Without the crucial evidence from that black box, Benedict believes the case could have had a very different outcome.
Without the data, she will have been held at fault. A claim will have been made against the policy that was fraudulent. However, because of the data, we were able to completely flip the result. I've little doubt that the independent witness was either entirely fabricated or a friend, perhaps, of the claimant. Because the insured's claim was genuine and the telematics data supported her version of events, the claimant's insurer paid her claim straight away.
Since July 2022, all new cars sold in the UK must have a black box fitted. a move that Benedict believes will help crack down on false insurance claims in the future.
Telematics is becoming really important. This is a case where without it, the insurer will have seen the claimant's version of events backed up with a witness and probably paid the claim. But here, the telematics data allowed the insurer to get behind what the claimants were saying and prove them to be liars.
Still to come, a legal eagle gets his wings clipped when his claim for £20,000 is exposed as a pack of lies.
We're looking at a person here who is a lawyer. He's placed in a position of trust for everyone. He'd lied repeatedly, seriously. He very much thumbed his nose at the insurance company.
We're a nation of dog lovers, with more than 10 million of us owning a pooch. It's estimated that as many as 1.9 million dogs are sold every year in a market worth between 100 and 300 million pounds. If you are buying a puppy from a breeder, you should always check they're reputable, and they should be able to offer short-term free insurance as part of the deal. When breeders sell a puppy, most big companies will provide around 5 weeks of free cover for the new owner. There's a limited window for activating the insurance, usually 10 days before and up to 3 days after the sale of the puppy, and the dog has to be healthy on the day it's sold. All crucial in this next case, when insurer Agria was contacted by a new puppy owner.
Sadly, soon after having purchased the puppy from the breeder, the puppy fell ill.
Vicky Wentworth is the managing director at Agria Pet Insurance.
We believe that the puppy began to have seizures. And of course, in something so small and so vulnerable, seizures can be potentially quite fatal. And then what happened was, even more sadly, that puppy ended up passing away, and that was the catalyst for the claim.
The pet owner had paid the breeder £2,500 for his puppy. He said he wanted to claim back that cost. He wasn't interested in recouping any vet's fees. He just wanted the purchase price back so he could buy a new puppy from the same breeder. When he rang to start his claim, the call handler told him what the next steps were.
What we need from you is a written confirmation from the vet that has passed away, and also a purchase receipt from the breeder as well, so we can look to cover that purchase price, basically. Yeah, the only thing is with the vet. So basically, when she died, obviously I took her to like a random vet for them to cremate her. So are they the ones that can do the confirming? Can they do that, even though they're not my vet? They can. Yeah, yes, they can.
The call handler provided an email address for sending in the supporting paperwork. But over the following weeks, the pet owner rang back a number of times to confirm the address, as he couldn't get his documents to send.
The gentleman concerned was quite agitated at times. He was complaining that he couldn't get emails through to us that apparently he'd sent. We had no record of these emails landing in our mailboxes. We handle claims within 2 working days, so we absolutely know at what point a claim comes into us, and we just had no record of it.
Each time the man called, his story seemed to change. At first, he said the puppy had seen his own vet before she died, but only for a minor problem.
She did go to the vet a couple of times with a different vet, but I don't care about making the claim on that.
The call handler told the pet owner that he'd have to supply information from the vet who had seen the puppy whilst it was alive. The man argued that wasn't necessary, as he'd only taken the pup there for eye drops. Then in later calls, that vet seemed to vanish into thin air.
Basically, I didn't have a vet for her because I didn't have her very long. And it was only when she died she actually registered with a vet.
So, but had she had a health check before she left the breeder, though?
Yeah, that's all there. So on her end, like, she's got all the vets there, but what I'm saying is I haven't got any vet history on my end.
The man's description of the puppy's health made the fact that he hadn't taken her to the vet seem even stranger.
The short time that I had her, I hadn't taken her to the vet. So, you know, and she kept, in her sleep, she kept having these little fits. And then literally, like, before, the day before, I was due to book her into the vet the next day, and she'd gone, sort of thing. So it was also done.
He just couldn't keep his story straight.
Any contradictory information in a case like this is suspicious because customers tend to know what has and hasn't happened. So the minute there's a little bit of uncertainty, of course, it arouses our suspicion. If our suspicions are alerted, we start to look for fraud.
It was time for this claim to undergo closer scrutiny. Investigators started by looking at the dates. The pet owner said he'd bought and taken his new puppy home on the 12th of August and had supplied a receipt that confirmed this date.
The collection date of the 12th of August is really important in this case. The reason being is we knew that at that point the puppy had actually left the breeder's care.
This meant the free insurance policy should have been started between the 2nd of August and 15th of August, but it wasn't.
There was a huge gap. The actual policy was incepted on the 26th of August, so way outside of our terms and conditions.
What's more, the puppy had died just 3 days later. It led the claims team to suspect she was already sick when the insurance was started. Another no-no. But perhaps the claimant had just got his dates wrong.
It's really important to square the circle because the breeder has a section of information which we potentially hadn't yet heard, or perhaps we just needed confirmation on, and that was at what point did the customer actually buy, collect and take the puppy home.
It was time to give the breeder a call.
Can you tell me the purchase date and a date has collected the puppy, please? Yes, so the 12th it was, the 12th of the 8th, 2022. So that was the date the puppy was collected and purchased, is that correct? Yes.
There had been no confusion with the dates. The breeder had confirmed the puppy was bought on the 12th of August, a full 14 days before the policy was taken out on the 26th of August. This meant the policy wasn't valid when the puppy died.
So we wrote formally to the customer to tell him that we were going to decline the claim. Actually, before he got the letter, he rang in chasing what was happening, and the contact centre member of staff who spoke to him informed him at that point verbally that we were in fact going to decline the claim. He was quite agitated and quite cross, as you completely understand, and he started to blame the breeder.
Despite the pet owner's unhappiness, it was case closed. Then the insurer received a call from the breeder.
She reached into us and was telling us that she had quite a lot on in her life. She didn't understand why we declined the claim, and that she was under quite a lot of pressure at home, and that in fact if we were going to decline the claim then she would appeal.
The call handler spelled out why the claim had been declined.
We have this rule when we set up 5x3. From the date of the sale, you have up to 3 days to create that 5x3 as a breeder.
Yeah.
And it looks like this policy was actually set up on the 26th.
I set that up the day before that he picked her up. I always do it the day before, just in case.
Adamant that she'd taken the policy out at the correct time, the breeder then sent the insurers what she claimed was her copy of the sales contract with the puppy's owner.
When we received the contract, it actually showed that the puppy had been picked up and paid for, funnily enough, on the 25th of August, much later than originally we had been informed. So of course, as an insurance company, our main concern here is that there is significant fraud going on. They're changing the dates, they're colluding behind the scenes, they're trying to manipulate the information so that it suits their requirements, and of course then we need to pay the claim.
Vicky knew the claim was a fake, but she needed proof. The case was passed to members of the financial crime team, which undertook an in-depth investigation of both the breeder and pet owners' online profiles. And they came up trumps. Thanks to the fact that this owner had gone to the trouble of creating a social media account in the new puppy's name.
We all love social media, and we all love to post pictures of our pets particularly. When we started to look at social media for the customer, we could actually see very clearly that this lovely little puppy was in fact at his home, in his home, on the 13th of August. So we began to suspect that the original information they gave us was actually correct.
It looked like this puppy had been bought on the 12th of August, and most definitely not on the 26th of August. The social media investigation also revealed something else that completely destroyed the claim. An update on the puppy, posted online 2 days before the policy was even taken out.
We actually found a post which was proof that the puppy was actually ill. And it was quite poorly. That the post was proof to us that, in fact, when the contract was set up on the 26th of August, that actually the puppy was already ill at that point. So for our purposes as an insurer, that would be a pre-existing condition.
Vicky and her team were now certain that the breeder and pet owner had colluded, making false statements and submitting a fake document to try to get Agria to pay out £2,500, even though in reality, they hadn't taken out the policy in time. The appeal was not upheld and the claim remained declined. After failing to get hold of the pet owner over the phone and via email, the insurance company formally wrote to tell him the outcome. As for the breeder, a member of the compliance team managed to get her on the phone and she was put through her paces.
I've got Mr. social media page in front of me, and he's actually got a page activated or set up for herself. Right. And on all those pages, it's actually showing that was in his possession on the 14th of August. The 14th of August? Yeah. Well, I'm quite confused by that. And the 15th, and so according to that evidence, we can see that you already had in his possession prior to the date you said. I'm really confused by that, unless I put the wrong date on it. 26. So what does that mean then? Basically, it means that you've been dishonest with us.
Both the breeder and pet owner were informed Agria would not insure them in the future. They were also both uploaded to insurance databases. For Vicky, this claim had a tragic outcome, which might have been avoidable.
It's terribly sad that a puppy passed away in this case, because had they had the cover, it would have gone to the vets much, much sooner, I'm sure. And who knows, you know, we might have been able to do something to save it.
Insurance fraud is committed by all sorts of people, from hardened criminals to supposedly upstanding members of the community. And the reasons for committing fraud can equally be as varied. In our next case, the investigators became suspicious when a man had a car accident on the day his policy was suddenly cancelled by his insurance company. And even more iffy was the fact it became clear that he had close links to the driver he'd crashed into. Damien Rourke is a partner at Clyde & Co, and he works with the UK's biggest insurance companies to investigate suspicious claims. He was tasked with getting to the bottom of a claim from a man who said his car had been driven into by another driver.
The claimant in this case was a 36-year-old lawyer who was involved in a road traffic accident.
The collision happened at a T-junction.
The suggestion by the claimant was that he was driving along the road and our policyholder emerged from a side road and collided with his correctly proceeding vehicle.
The lawyer's claim was substantial.
The claim was for approximately £22,000 and it comprised of several £1,000s for a whiplash-type injury, a proportion for vehicle damage, and another chunk for credit hire and storage.
From the outset, there were aspects of the claim that seemed suspicious, starting with the policyholder, the driver who had caused the crash and whose insurance policy had just been cancelled. It turns out that he'd only taken it out a week earlier, when he'd been asked to back up his application with a letter from his boss.
The policyholder was asked to provide documentation to prove that he was working as a marketing manager, and he provided a letter from his employer.
When it arrived, something didn't look right.
So the letter confirmed that he was employed by this company. It provided the company's house address, details, email, all the sort of data that you would expect to find in one of these letters, but it appeared to be a fairly amateurish letter.
The insurance company wasn't convinced and rejected the letter, saying it didn't meet the underwriting criteria. Because of this, the company contacted the policyholder to say it was cancelling the policy. But on the very same day, the man contacted his insurers to say he'd had an accident. Luckily for him, the policy was still active for 7 days after cancellation, so he was still covered. The timing made Damien suspicious. With his nose twitching, he began looking in more detail at the paperwork, starting with the dodgy-looking letter from the policyholder's employer.
Some investigations were made in relation to this company. Now, when you looked at the address and cross-referenced with the electoral roll, it transpired that the claimant, so the person who the policyholder had struck, was registered at that address.
Hang on. So the policyholder's boss lived at the same address as the lawyer whose car he'd hit. Damien smelled a rat. The policyholder was questioned about his relationship with the lawyer he'd driven into.
He denied that there was a connection with him and the driver, which again is a massive red flag from our perspective.
Damien started to suspect the whole claim was bogus.
My main concern at this point is that what's happened here is someone has cancelled the policy for this chap, and in a hissy fit he has decided to stage an accident with his mate as the claimant, with potentially a view to splitting the money, who knows.
And the lawyer, who was claiming the £22,000, he also denied knowing the driver who'd hit him, even though he lived in the same house as his boss. Damien decided it was time to talk in person to the policyholder who had caused the crash, to ask about his boss.
We send out an inquiry agent to speak to the policyholder. Specifically, he asks him about how it was that he came to be employed by the chap who shares the address with the claimant. And he turns around and says, well, a chap whose name is Bilal referred me for the job.
Damien was staggered, because Bilal was the lawyer's name, and this suggested a very strong link between the men.
Why on earth would he give the name of the claimant when he was interviewed? Well, the answer to that is, frankly, sometimes some people are a bit daft.
Despite the fact the investigators were onto them, the drivers were still sticking to their guns.
Even at this stage of the case, both the policyholder and Mr. Bilal were strongly maintaining that they did not know each other.
Damien needed to up the ante, starting with a closer look at the online activity of the lawyer who was making this £22,000 claim.
We instructed our intelligence team to look at Mr. Bilal's social media, and one of the interesting things that we found there was that one of his social media profiles had a series of digits linked to the end of it, and those digits, it transpired, linked to a school group. And when we looked at the school group, that eventually led us down a path where we discovered that this chap, Mr. Bilal, the claimant, had about 6 different aliases. Bilal Hussein, Bilal Chowdhury, Bilal Mohammed Hussein, Bilal Tour, and also David Abrahams.
It isn't usual to have so many aliases, and one of the names led Damien straight back to the policyholder.
The one that was particularly important was the discovery of the alias Bilal Tour, because when we were originally investigating the policyholder in relation to the cancellation of his policy, we received a letter from a chap called Bilal Tour who said he was representing the policyholder.
This was astonishing. It seemed the lawyer who was claiming the big money was using a pseudonym to represent the man who'd supposedly driven into him. Damien questioned the lawyer again.
We did confront Mr. Bilal about being the representative for the policyholder, and he got quite shirty about it, really, and sent back a response saying, I am not Bilal Khan, I am not Bilal Tour, I am not Bilal Chowdhury, I am not Mr. Ishmael, I am Mohammed Bilal. Do you get that?
Despite all the denials, Damien found yet another damning piece of evidence online and confronted the lawyer with it.
We were able to provide him with a copy of his business card, which we'd extracted from social media, where he described himself as Bilal Chowdhury, working for the law firm who had represented the policyholder.
This was the smoking gun, which finally forced the claimant to fall on his sword.
He finally came clean and said, yes, I had, in fact, represented him.
Damien had backed the claimant into a corner, discovering that he'd been working for another law firm to represent the man who'd crashed into him. Damien now had the evidence he needed to prove once and for all that both drivers knew each other prior to the crash. And there was one final nail in the coffin for this case.
We obtained an opinion from a forensic engineer who looked at the damage to the vehicles and prepared a report which said effectively there is no way that this damage could have been sustained in the way that is suggested.
Despite the mountain of evidence against him, the lawyer refused to give up on his £22,000 and pushed to get his case heard in court. But then he got cold feet at the last minute.
The claim was scheduled to go to trial in and around June 2020. It never got there though, because the claimant failed to pay a court fee and the court struck it out before it could go to trial.
The wayward lawyer may have thought that was the end of it. However, the insurance company was not going to let him get off that easily.
The insurers involved in this case were fairly annoyed about the level of deceit and given particularly the profession of Mr. Bilal, decided to bring proceedings for contempt of court against him.
And things did not go Mohammed Bilal's way.
The consequences for Mr. Bilal were quite serious. He was sentenced to 8 months in prison. He was ordered to pay an interim payment on account of costs for £11,000, and he was placed on the insurance fraud register.
Damien thinks the whole claim was a sham from the beginning.
I ultimately agree with the judge's assessment that these two chaps knew each other and colluded together to stage the accident. A complete work of fiction from start to finish. I don't think the accident ever occurred at all.
The lawyer's fall from grace was complete. Damien believes he got what he deserved.
We're looking at a person here who's placed in a position of trust for everyone. He'd lied repeatedly, seriously. He'd very much thumbed his nose at the insurance company, and it might be said that there was felt to be some sense of responsibility for us to root out a bad apple, if you like.
Another shocking case of deception and a timely reminder that we all need to remain vigilant to the scourge of insurance fraud. From chancers exaggerating injury to criminal gangs engineering crashes for cash, these tricksters hit us all in the pocket. Every year, insurers lose millions to these scams, and it's you, the policyholder, who ends up paying the price with hikes to your premiums. But the sheer number of thieves caught in the act sends a clear message to anyone thinking about cheating the system. They claimed, but now they're shamed.